Rosemary Truman. I'm the founder and CEO of the Center for Advancing Innovation, and I'm here to talk to you about the Global Health Innovation Challenge. So as you all know, that we have a 3-year plan of working on this, and we're in the second phase of that 3-year plan. We started out with a phase that focused on mental health and children's health generally. Now we have a very broad scope in terms of global health, which really includes anything that could impact global health generally. So it's a very, very broad opening for obviously therapeutics, devices, vaccines, but you can even think about it in terms of how could even the supply chain, given the dynamics we have going on with the railroad system right now, improve health generally, because if we can't get medicines to those who need them, or we can't clean out or let's say expeditiously process patients, for example, in a hospital, so that can be digital health. So there's lots and lots of ways you can think about global health. One of our clients is actually working in the client transplant area. And so you can even imagine organs being identified and then diagnosed and then transplanted to the place where they need to go, and then an additional diagnostic on the other side to make sure that that particular organ will work well in the body. So global health can encompass quite a number of things. That's just a kind of something to talk to you about at the beginning. So if you are familiar with our challenges, this says children's mental health and pandemic resiliency. That's where we started. So we're now in the phase of global health. So it's a global innovation challenge that the startups will go through our accelerator program and our challenge program. It is about 8 months long. There's 40 classes, 12 company building exercises in the accelerator, and the challenge consists of a phase of the elevator speech phase, where the teams will build their pitch deck and their executive summary. Then they'll hit the road, if you will, where the tires fly off sometimes, and that's a business plan phase. That's where the rubber really hits the road, and that's where the teams will create a business plan, a full business plan, a financial model, and revise the pitch deck. And the next phase is the startup phase, where the teams will pitch to our panel of judges, and then we'll pick winners at the end of that. So here our goal is to really advance any kind of technology that can impact global health. Even though this deck we were starting with the children's health and mental health, this is really focused more broadly on global health. So we're identifying key issues related to global health and trying to galvanize the ecosystems in different areas of global health. And part of what we're doing is we're making this global health innovation sustainable. So what that means is we want our challenge winners to go into our Ignite Social Impact platform if they are qualified. That's where they can raise up to $5 million. So during the course of the challenge, you'll have the opportunity to pitch to lots of investors with our demo days. And then also at the end of our challenge, we'll have an investor forum. And then you'll have the opportunity to go into our Ignite Social Impact crowdfunding platform, where again, you can raise up to $5 million. And one of the key tenets for what we're trying to do here is to help the underemployed and people that are not equitably treated, if you will, in the job force, and create knowledge-based jobs, more knowledge-based jobs, and boost the ecosystem, in particular in the District of Columbia area. It's called the DMV in the DC area. That's where the largest discrepancy between, if you will, the haves and the have-nots are in the United States. So one area of focus, and if you're interested in our spreadsheet on this, we did an enormous spreadsheet on the where the largest discrepancies are. It sounds like there's somebody talking in the background. Not sure. Okay. So the opportunity for coming into the challenge is, of course, you get the training. The training is, if you all know my background, I spent about 20 years in strategy consulting. So, and my specialty was growth strategy. So I'm very, very good at creating business plans. And so the part of the accelerator plan training is kind of a mini MBA, I would call it. So you actually learn about business planning and strategy from world-class experts. I won't be training on every class. We'll have lots of different people speaking with you about it, and you'll get lots of points of view. Another opportunity is to expand your network. So all the people who are on this call today, some of you actually got to come to some of my parties, which I enjoyed as well. So you get to expand your network in person and virtually as well, with each other, and also with mentors that we will have engaged with you. And I would take also advantage in a quote unquote word term of the advisors that we introduce you to as well, that are teaching the classes. They're very open and they really want to contribute to your success. We will connect you with mentors, and you'll receive support from them. We usually have about 3 mentors on each team. And I never thought that I would be a matchmaker, or Cody would be a matchmaker for that matter, but we are coined, the Center for Advancing Innovation has coined the Tinder for startups, because we do matchmake between experts that can help you and your team itself. There's also media coverage. We've been fortunate to receive 9 White House recognitions during the Obama White House. There's all kinds of things on my wall framed from NASA and from the HHS. We got the highest award from Health and Human Services, the Washington Post, Chicago Tribune, Huffington Post, and it goes on and on. So your ability to get covered in one of those areas is possible. But also I write for Forbes, so we recently featured one startup actually in a Forbes article as well. So that's a possibility too. The prizes and funding for the challenge, the prizes are $2,000, but the funding part is real, non-dilutive and dilutive funding. So the dilutive funding will come as a result of engaging with the investors, the different demo days, and also the investor forum, and also through crowd equity. And the funding could also come through non-dilutive funding, because you'll be applying for grants and things of that nature during the course of our challenge. The non-dilutive funding could also come from foundations and such, and family offices that come to our different investor demo days, and also the investor forum. So sometimes they give their money in terms of grants, and sometimes they give their money in terms of investments. And of course, the most exciting part is you get to launch your company. You can make the leap from employee to entrepreneur and boost global health. Are there any questions? I've been talking the whole time. I just want to see if there's anybody who has any questions. Okay, I'll just keep going. So the dates you're going to find on our the Center for Advancing Innovation.org website. So you have the option to form a startup. You can have a startup that you can enroll, or you want to perhaps you have a friend who wants to mentor or advise or judge the teams. So you can see all of the information here. Anyone can join. I mean, the main thing is that you have to be willing to do the hard work that's required, and I mean, that's really all it's required, is because we will give you the tools necessary to move forward in the challenge. How you can participate is you can be a team member. So for example, you may not want to be a team leader, maybe you want to be a team member. So we have a website where you can actually sign up to say you want to contribute to a team. So that's a possibility. You can prepare deliverables like the business plan, the financial model, the pitch decks. It's about 10 to 20 hours per week to be a team member. You could be an ambassador. You could be rallying the troops in a particular area. When I say area, it could be a physical area like a region, or it could be a thought leadership area. For example, you care about global health as it relates to supply chain management. How can we improve our supply chains to promote the global health? Or it could be still mental health, because that is included in global health. You could engage with us as a sponsor. So some legal firms and accounting firms, for example, will sponsor certain events and investor forums. And then, or you could be just a cheerleader. You could say, hey, I want you to know about the Global Health Innovation Challenge, and let people know to encourage them to enter. You could be a mentor. That would be being part of a team, but being a mentor on the team. So it's usually 2 to 4 hours a month. Or you could be an advisor and you could provide a webinar on a particular topic. This webinar is a particular topic. So as an example, I could be considered an advisor at this moment in time, but hopefully I go a little bit beyond that. Or you could be a judge. So, or it's a role to be a judge, evaluating groups of teams, pursuing one or more inventions. So sometimes you're evaluating a bunch of startups in a particular area, or you're evaluating company or teams that are competing for the same intellectual property. So there's usually 3 to 6, I would say, that you would judge. That's usually how we have it allocated, and that's usually at 8 hours of time, because but it's only it's 1 week during the final stage. So to come into the challenge, you apply. We have a pretty low bar to enter because we want to have as much engagement as possible with, allow or lower the barrier to entry so that as many people as possible can come into the challenge. We have created about 380 companies at this juncture. About 70%, Cody can correct me if I have percentages incorrect, but they're about 70% are co-founded by minorities and about 60% are co-founded by women as well. So that bucks the national average. The national average is about 3% co-founded by women and about, well, depending on how you count minorities, 4% co-founded by minorities. So we have really changed the dynamic, so to speak. So then you need to form a team. The team should be, you really should think about a multidisciplinary team, a team that has legal expertise, that has business expertise, that has industry expertise, scientific expertise, or engineering expertise. Think about the layers of disciplines that you need in order to allow yourself to be successful. And as we go through the challenge, we will help you to continue to form that team through mentors and also finding you additional team members. You submit the application and then you enter the challenge. When you enter the challenge, we have a rolling entry process. So when you come into the challenge, we let you in and then you just go directly into the next phase. So the next phase is the elevator speech phase. And in the elevator speech phase, you're going to create that 10-page elevator pitch deck. It's going to go up on a fancy website called YouTube, and it'll be accompanied by an executive summary. And then we will help you augment your team during this phase as well. You can see that the blue goes this way, right? So as we go through the challenge, we'll have tailored curriculum depending upon the types of inventions that come into the challenge. Then you'll submit the phase 1 deliverables, as I mentioned, the 2-minute elevator pitch and the 350-word executive summary. Then we'll have some judges select the semifinalists. Then you roll into the business plan phase. And this is, as I mentioned, where the rubber hits the road. This is where you have a lot of additional training, quite a lot. Because creating a business plan that's 10 pages long is not as easy as creating a business plan that's 30 pages long. Of course, you can have a robust appendix, but we're looking for a 10-page business plan. And we're looking for a financial model that will have a risk-adjusted P&L, a cap table, and also a evaluation model. So it's a robust financial model. And then, of course, you're going to revise your pitch deck as well. We'll be pairing you again with seasoned executives from a mentoring standpoint. You'll launch your company if you haven't already, submit your deliverables, and then we select winners. And then during the course of this, all these dots, if you will, we'll have demo days where you get to practice your pitch sessions in front of investors. So anywhere from 100 to about 500 investors. We do a lot of pitch practice before we get to the investor forum. And then the access capital is the investor forum. But as I mentioned before, during the entire course of the challenge, you'll have the ability to raise money through demo days with investors and family offices, and then also through some of the deliverables you will create, like grants and such. And then we'll have a final ceremony. Hopefully we'll be able to do it in person, given the current situation. I don't know how, I mean, what we've heard is the national average in the United States is at 10x worse for the flu, and COVID's getting much worse as well again. And then RSV has popped up as well. So hopefully we'll be able to do everything in person. I'll stop there again and ask if there's any questions.
I just remember one of your comments, which is, hey, the financial model is a window into the soul of your business plan.
Yes.
Or
yes.
something like that. So I
know. Thank you, Sandy. Thank you for mentioning that. I think that you know, I guess I have been doing this for about now 32 years, doing business plans. And the way you start a business plan is you first do the financial model. And I do believe you can read someone's soul through a financial model, because you can actually see how they think. So each variable should be triangulated, meaning there's something called tops down, bottoms up, and there's like a sideways. There's a benchmarking component to it. There's a tops down that says, okay, the market's $2 billion. Now you have to peel the onion away. Meaning, let's say if we took a look at tuberculosis as an example. Is it multi-drug resistant tuberculosis? Does the IP address just Russia, or does it address the US as well? So each time you start to look at geographic region, what kind of therapeutic it is, what demographic region does it address? Maybe it's only certain demographics, maybe it's only for children. You start to peel away this onion that allows you to get to a tops down analysis that shows you how to create a market size that way. Then there's another way to do a bottoms up analysis, which is a prevalency and incidence rates, for example, for therapeutics in that particular domain that you're working on. And then of course there's benchmarks as well. So those are the three aspects of financial models. And when you do your financial model, all of the assumptions should be written down. I mean, we should be able to click on a link and understand exactly where you got your assumptions from. So I appreciate you mentioning that, Sandy, because it's near and dear to my heart, because that is the basis for how you create your business plan. If the business plan and the financial model don't match, I mean, I don't even look at the business plan at all unless the financial model looks good. So I mean, I might be a little more severe in my judgment, but I think that for certainly, if they don't match and the assumptions don't match the business plan and the financial model, there's some opportunity for improvement there.
One quick question,
yeah.
Rosemary. When you talk about children's mental health, I think it's a multi-pronged beast. What I mean by that, there is technology aspect, but there are some family level aspects, right? I mean, one could make an assumption that the tighter the families are, the more confident these children are going to be. It has to do with you know, whether there are drugs in the family. There is some aspect of that's related to, hey, is it encoded in your genes? So when I look at this multi-headed problem, is there a sliver that you are looking at in terms of mental health, or the complete expanse of health? I mean, there might be drug dependencies. I mean, there are so many aspects of it.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I should say this new phase that we're working on is global health. So it you know, one part of it is mental health, but I think you raise a very good point. Mental health has many factors involved, and you know, we want to look at, when we look at global health, we want to look at, you know, each sliver of global health and all those factors that are involved. But when we look at mental health, we also want to look at, I mean, did someone get enough sleep? I mean, that affects your mental health, right? I think that you're right about, for example, drugs. I mean, if there are drugs in the family, if there's a family but there's no parents that are ever around. I mean, there's lots of ways to, like, loneliness is one of the highest contributors to mental health problems, actually. Well, according to a couple of authors that have written books and done studies on it. So yeah, I do agree with you, and I'm happy that you brought that up.
Yeah, because I have seen a lot of them, they are saying, hey, if the families, instead of centering themselves around devices, if they start centering around a dinner table, a lot of the mental problems would go away. You know, I mean, there is, by the way, I hope I'm not belaboring the point. I'm a technologist at heart, but at the same time, I also feel like not everything has to be dealt with technology. There could be very simple day-to-day things that you can do to make a drastic change in children's mental health. Just reading a story at night at their bed could make a difference.
Well, having a cat with a good appetite is also good. When I was little, I'll just tell a little story. When I was little, you know, my mom was Italian, so you know, but she was very good at baking cinnamon buns. I could say that for sure. But when we had meat, like I couldn't eat it. So I used to try to feed it to the cat under the table, and the cat would choke on it. So I was like, damn, you know, I mean, I got in trouble because I was trying to feed the meat to the cat. So I mean, that could have made issues for my mental health. It's probably why I don't eat red meat to this day. So I just wanted to share with you another example of how the challenge might work. We did a challenge called Space Race, and we're actually going to be launching a new one called Space Race 2. So look out for that. It's going to be fun. Because, you know, by 2023, we're supposed to be sending astronauts to the moon, and they are going to be orbiting around for 6 months. So you have to think about the performance of the body and all kinds of things about, you know, how much you can put on the rocket ship. I mean, everything has to be small form and very, very tough or in nature. But in our Space Race Challenge 1, these were our 10 inventions that we had as topics that people could choose in the challenge. And I could talk to you all day and night about these inventions. This is called the kite over here, this invention number 9. And it uses piezoelectric energy to capture energy. So so imagine a windmill, you know, it's capturing energy. So this is a kite that you can optimize the location of the kite based on where the most wind is. It's controlled by these wire beams at the bottom, and kind of, if you will, a motherboard that then it will collect the energy in a much more efficient and faster manner and have less degradation of performance than a windmill, for example. So that was, again, these are all developed by NASA, and I could tell you about them. But so what happens is in the challenge, teams will come into the challenge, they'll pick an invention. Now, if there are startups that are already working in the space race area, they can come in as well. But if they want to pick one of the inventions that we have topics of the challenge, they can come in and pick them. So this is illustrative in nature. I mean, we had, for example, I think we had about 10 teams on invention number 9. Invention, this was a very difficult invention. Invention number 3, I think NASA spent at least $200 million on this thing. It's called the Razor. It's amazing, autonomous and semi-autonomous vehicle. The reason it's called the Razor is because it's huge wheels that are titanium. I think that I'm saying that right. And it can roll over and roll back over, and it has sensors in the middle. And it was used to detect if there's water at the moon, in the moon. So then what happens is, of course, we have startups that come out of it. You could have more than one startup that comes out of a particular invention. In fact, for the kite, we had actually 3 companies that came out of that invention. And at the end of the day, we hope we have a couple of exits. We have one company that raised about $1.2 billion recently. And then we have one exit from our prior challenges. So we, like as I mentioned before, we're about 380 companies so far and being launched, and we hope to continue to do that in the foreseeable future, as long as we're all around. So just a little bit more about the Accelerator training, which I already mentioned before. There are 40 webinars. What we do is we align the webinar training with the inventions or the startups that come into the challenge. So let's pretend we have therapeutics, devices, and diagnostics. The way you develop a diagnostic and the device is different in terms of the R&D path. So we would have specialty classes on what kind of R&D path do you use, for example, or FDA path or R&D path do you use for a device or a diagnostic versus a therapeutic? Because there's class 1, class 2, class 3 devices and diagnostics, and then for therapeutics, they have, of course, a longer path unless they have an orphan indication, which then allows you to fast track and go to market after, like with a phase 2, phase 3 trial. I might be speaking Greek to you, so I apologize for that. But I'm just trying to make the point that that there are different levels of training based on the startups that come into the challenge, as well as the inventions that are chosen for the challenge. As I mentioned before, we have 12 kind of company building exercises, is what I like to call them. And these are writing grants, these are producing your financial model, stakeholder engagement. And if I haven't said this, I should have said it at least 3 times already. And if you don't remember anything but one thing or 2 things out of this meeting, one is, of course, you can read someone's soul through a financial model. Thank you, Sandy. And the other one is stakeholder engagement is one of the most important things you ever do. And you have to constantly do it over and over again. You have to continuously engage with people, and engage with people that perhaps you don't even know who they are. But I'll just tell you another little story. We were working with the Walton family on the challenge called the Scale Challenge. And Alice Walton was the one who approved our challenge. But part of what she wanted to do was to see if artists could be injected in the startups to improve the quality of the startup. So we had we literally had all different kinds of artists engage with the companies, and the stakeholder engagement. You can imagine that you would never think perhaps about stakeholder engagement with a designer or an artist that's a painter, or we all think about user experience and things of that nature, but broaden your thought process there. But going back to stakeholder engagement one more time is so I was wondering, like, how do we engage all these artists? Well, I said, I thought, well, I could engage my mom, because my mom is definitely an artist, and many of the paintings in my house are from her. And but you can't see all of them, but that's one of the ones she made. But I was thinking, like, how do we engage with this other organization? It was called Codemy, and they they take tech and they take art and they fuse them together. So the guy who runs Codemy is Bruno Fonzi is his name. And well, he's a co-founder of Codemy. And he is at Salesforce as one of the top engineers at salesforce.com. So I looked him up on the internet, and he had a page. I finally found this page, and it said that he liked chocolate coffee. And I thought, oh, I love chocolate coffee. So the title of my email to him was Chocolate Coffee, Engaging Artists in Tech. And I got an email back from him, I don't know, 6 to 10 minutes afterwards. And so when you do your research about the person, there's so much information on LinkedIn and their endorsements and what clubs they're in, and even the top of the LinkedIn thing tells you a story. We learned yesterday about a gentleman. So Cody, you can help me with this. Was it lacrosse was not founded in the U.S. It was founded in
invented
Canada?
by I think that's true, but it's a Native American sport.
Oh, Native American, yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
Fascinating history on that, overlooked. Beautiful sport, by the way.
And it's beautiful, and it looks to me to be extremely complicated, and requires a lot of balance. But at the top of his LinkedIn, he had a picture of this Native American person, and then as you read through, you could see that he was really into lacrosse. And so that could be a conversation starter. Even if you don't know anything about lacrosse, you could say, what did you think about this last game, or something like that, some college game, or like just to try to engage in conversation and put that as part of your subject line, so that people don't think you're just, people know that you're genuine. Let's put it that way. There's lots of opportunities for collaboration through the ambassadors, the regional people, and also engage with experts, the mentors, and collaborate across the team. So all of you are on the Zoom call right now. You could exchange information, or we could exchange information for you about who's on the call, and you can reach out to each other. And then, as I mentioned before, we are the Tinder for startups. So we have recruited hundreds of mentors that will help advise the startups. So that's part of the accelerator training. So a little bit more broadly about the Center for Advancing Innovation. As you all probably know, we've engaged, we work with about 170,000 inventions across more than 150 partnerships with universities, federal labs, and hospitals. As I mentioned, I have worked for many years in strategy consulting. So I have at least 11 trade secrets and due diligence. And so we use proprietary vetting models to evaluate the technologies, and then we commercialize the technologies through startups. But as I mentioned, it's a two-way street. If you have a startup already, come into the challenge, and then if you want to create a startup and you like one of the inventions we've selected, or even if you don't like one of the inventions we selected, but you would like to have an invention that perhaps is in our database, then we can go find it. Cody is the maestro at finding great inventions, and one time he negotiated an invention from an organization out of Hawaii, and it was developed by NASA and this organization from Hawaii, and I think it took him one day. So we've been fortunate to create some good relationships that allow us to gain access to the technologies, and we don't take a piece of the technologies or anything like that. So it's not because for that reason. We have actually 72% living rate at this point. I apologize, the metrics aren't perfect there. When we look at the technologies, I'm looking at the third bullet down because we already touched on the second bullet. We have we've spoken with the tech transfer offices, and we request a kind of a very efficient, low cost access for the intellectual property. So as an example, in 2012, I can't believe it's 10 years ago. One of the first engagements I did when I launched the Center for Advancing Innovation was with the National Institutes of Health. And so one of the opportunities we found for them was to revamp their licensing model, have a special licensing model for startups. So that licensing model is $2,000 upfront, no patent prosecution fee reimbursement, and the maximum on the royalties is 1.5%. And the average royalties for a therapeutic are about 10 to 15%. So that's a screaming good deal. And not having to pay the patent prosecution fees back is also a really good deal. So we have been able to help companies gain access to that IP for efficiently and at low cost. So efficiently being not 2 years, but hopefully 6 months or something along those lines. There are occasions where, when you're working with an organization that has like a technology stack, so they have software, hardware, mechanical, electrical, communication, sensors. Sometimes there's part of that stack, they take a piece of it and they move it forward in a different direction. And so sometimes finding all the bits and pieces, it takes a little while. Just more about the Center for Advancing Innovation. We've had 2 exclusives in Nature. Nature is the highest profile magazine that is out there. And so we're very proud of it. Although I imagine a scientist going through this Nature magazine that's full of scientific material, and then they see title, Tinder for Startups. I wonder how many people fell out of their chair. And that was about our model. So we're very proud of that. And then the White House has called us the Powerful Innovation Toolkit, and Wired has given us some nice kudos as well. And I mentioned, Washington Post and a whole bunch of other magazines, that are framed on my wall somewhere because my mom insists upon doing that, she's a great mom. So but most importantly are some of the companies we've launched. Freenome was the one who just closed. I think they were at 1.2 billion. CCG is a cancer genomics company. Cambridge Cancer Genomics is what it's called, stands for. And they just exited. Stratodynamics has the highest flying drone that exists out of Canada, and they do Earth surveillance, and they're creating interesting models. And so anyway, we're very proud of the startups that have come out of our challenges. So that's sorry about this slide, is a little bit busy, but on the left-hand side, it shows you where we started. We started with the Breast Cancer Startup Challenge, where I was told it will never work. and I raised the money for it, and we launched 11 companies out of that challenge, and they're still around. Then we launched the Neuro Startup Challenge after that, launched 22 companies out of that. By the way, we partnered on all these challenges. We partnered with different organizations. So the Nano Startup Challenge in Cancer, again, that was with NCI. Then we did our Space Race Challenge with NASA and some other organizations. We have different funding partners for challenge. The Freedom from Cancer Startup Challenge, that was like having 100 babies. The most complex challenge ever. And we advanced 111 technologies out of that challenge. Then we had a what we call a place-based challenge with the Virginia Bio Challenge. We launched 20 companies out of that. Then we did a challenge on the brain race, which is focused on primary brain tumors. So that was with an organization called the Silicon Valley Community Foundation. We've partnered with them on a few of them. They're, by the way, one of the richest foundations, theoretically, in the United States. They have a lot of money out of the California area. And then we partnered with the Brain Charity out of the UK. With the Scale Challenge, we partnered with the Walton family, and the Innovate Children's Health Challenge. We partnered with the Silicon Valley Community Foundation, and then also Children's National. We have partnered on all these challenges with several different IP institutions. I don't think we have a tally of all of them, but certainly a lot. I won't go through all these details on the right-hand side because we're about out of time. But a couple, if you're interested in digging deeper, Virtue Leap is a very, well, I told you about stratodynamics and Cambridge cancer genomics. Queen of Raw is, I mean, they're trailblazing like crazy. If you Google them, you'll find out about 10 awards in the last month. They're taking the scraps of material that are left over when shirts and things of that nature are made in manufacturing plants, and they're recycling them. And they have created also a technology-based model to basically outsource the technology so that the scraps can come in and they get paid for them. But they don't have to, usually they have to pay to get rid of the scraps. In this case, they get paid for the scraps. and so it's really changing the game a lot. Virtue Leap is another company that I would highly encourage you to look into. They're doing brain training through virtual reality and AI, and they have had many awards, but one was the Extreme Tech Challenge Award. And they have a lot of games out and are continuously building their portfolio. I mentioned that we were fortunate to receive a whole bunch of recognitions. I mentioned Chicago Tribune, NASA, the Washington Post, CBS News, Wired, Nature, Economy, Huffington Post, Space.com. We were on the cover of NASA, which was like being on the front page of NASA. It's the highly hit website, I believe, in the United States. We were in the Government Accountability Office twice. Usually they're looking at ways to improve the government. And so we had 2 awards from the Government Accountability Office. We got the Best in Business Plan and Entrepreneurship Award from Challenge.gov. I mentioned we had several recognitions from the Obama White House. We were the #1 accelerator program. So at the end of the Obama administration, they did these impact assessments. So we were #6 out of the top 10 things that hit impact and entrepreneurship, and we were number 36 in the top 100 things that happened in impact. And we've received awards. The highest award you can get from Health and Human Services, called the Secretary's Pickett Innovation Award. And so the way it works is, Health and Human Services is kind of the mother at the top, and then there are 27 institutes at the NIH, and so the NIH goes up to Health and Human Services, and CDC and FDA also go up to Health and Human Services. So this was a big deal. Lots of crystal floating around, awards that were floating around at that event that we went to. These are some of the items I mentioned before. We were named the Shark Tank on Steroids by the Bio, Tinder for Startups for Nature, Kickstarter for IP, and the White House, as I mentioned, the Powerful Innovation Toolkit. So I'm going to stop there, and I think we have 15 more minutes to have a discussion, and I can give you a short overview of Ignite Social Impact as well, but I'll just stop to see if you have any additional questions or comments. And that's me and Cody, if you didn't recognize me.
Happy to help. Thank you, Rosemary. Yeah, feel free to ask any questions. You can also take advantage of that chat box. Just type out your question there and we'll get to it.
I would just like to offer one comment. I went through a similar process last year, the ICHC #2, and I had an excellent experience with CAI. I got
Thank you.
All the webinars and speeches from various people who were experts in those specific areas was helpful in formulating my own thinking.
Thank you, Sandy. Appreciate it. Spread the word. Thank you. You can let people know on your LinkedIn. You can let people know on your Twitter. Or we're doing something really fun right now. As I mentioned, part of what we're doing is we're boosting the ecosystem, underemployed, people with not maybe perhaps a traditional education, and where there's really a disproportionate amount of equity that's going into those people. And we're trying to highlight what's called Ward 4 in DC, which is if you look at, I mentioned it before, the discrepancies between salaries, you name the category, it's in Ward 4 in DC. And so it's actually, by the way, it's very difficult to carve out, like on the Google Maps, what Ward 4 is. But we've been having some field trips. You haven't met Jarius, he's over there. Hello. And Jarius and I have been taking field trips to Ward 4 to try to see if we could invite investors and some startups in an intimate setting to allow people to know more about the area there and to gain more exposure for the restaurants, the entrepreneurial talent, the investors in the area. And so I'll have to show it to you guys, the spicy innovation. I probably have it somewhere here. But while you guys are thinking about questions, I'll just pull it up. Spicy. I have spicy eggplant, but you're pretty sure you're not going to be interested in that.
The spicy innovation title, of course, is based on Rosemary's uncanny ability to eat the spiciest foods. It's really something. It's a supernatural ability. And if you were to attend, I don't think we would expect you to try the spiciest foods, as Rosemary will.
No.
You might want to.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I don't want anyone to die, but I make there's even one that I called hot, which is, when I have my parties, I have the different spice containers and I make different sauces and I label them. And even the lowest one, people can't eat. I think my stomach is of steel. So see, I'm holding, if you can see my flowers, that's a whole bowl of peppers. That's what that is. Yeah. So I had to do modeling for that holding that bowl of peppers there.
There aren't enough Rolaids in the world for me. But Rosemary can handle.
Rosemary, if you are ever in Portland,
about 15. Yeah.
If you are ever in Portland, I want to test your spiciness with my cooking.
Oh, okay, all right, you're on. I've had these chefs that came out, so I would send back the food because it wasn't spicy enough, and they finally get it's like this much. I can show you the before and after pictures, but I carry peppers in my purse because I don't want to. Most of the time they don't believe me. So then I have my pepper stash in my purse. So I bring. That's really fun pull out your pepper stash on a date. But so the chefs would come out and say, you know, I really want to challenge you. And this one brought out, I mean, I won every time, but this one brought out this like a you know, it was like a Chinese cup, one of small cups full of pepper, like a pepper juice thing. And just like downed it. And he's just, we'll cut that part out, the fireflies. But yeah, no, I'm a spice maestro. In fact, I really think I should start bottling them because I know how to make many different kinds. And like Chinese spice is easy. I keep amping up the peppers. But I'm on for you, Sandy. I might have make a special trip just to taste your cooking.
I'm a master chef beside a startup guy.
Oh, cool. Nadine, didn't you try some of my spices?
Yes, you gave me some carrots, and they were you forgot to warn me that you had put all your spices on them prior to having me taste them. However, they were very delicious. I managed
very
through.
much. Yeah. Okay. Good. I'm glad no one died that night. Any other questions? Thank you, Nadine. Okay, just maybe I'll just mention one more thing then, and then I'll let you guys go for the day. But I remember we have Ignite Social Impact as well. So the opportunity with Ignite is for you to go onto the platform. It's a crowd equity platform. Anyone can invest $100 or more. So if you have a good crowd base, and that's part of why you want to do stakeholder engagement, then you can engage with those stakeholders, and then the people who just want to be your fan and they don't want to have to go through a term sheet back and forth can put $100, $1,000, $5,000 into your company, and it avoids many challenges when you actually have to go through negotiations with an investor, because this is one term sheet that you provide, and they take that term sheet as it is, and there's no onerous terms in the term sheet normally. Like there's no board seats, there's decision-making authority and things of that nature. So let me just show you where to go for that. IgniteSocialImpact.com. So all you have to do is click Get Funded, or if you want to invest, you can invest as well. And you can look at why Ignite, our FAQs, you can ask a question. But we're very excited about this because since 2016 is when crowdfunding platforms started, and they went from being able to invest $1 million to $5 million. Now you can go up to 5 million with a clean cap table. This is very important because you don't want to have a fragmented cap table. Part of the reason that many attorneys or advisors may say that you should not do crowdfunding is because they think that there's going to be 1,000 lines on the cap table, which would deter future investors deter future investors from investing in your company, because they can't figure out who's got control, who doesn't have control, and the cap table is a mess. So now you can wrap all your crowdfunding into one line on the cap table through it's called a special purposes vehicle. And there's other ways to do it as well. But the dynamics have changed dramatically in crowdfunding, and the idea with the SEC and FINRA, and if you can read this online, I'm paraphrasing, but the idea is to try to create a more smooth model to allow more people to invest in companies that they want to invest in, and not have kind of onerous terms provided, and allow the fan base to really contribute. So I'll just stop there to see if there's any other questions, and then feel free to reach out to us, and we'd be happy to answer any other questions you have. We have some really good webinars coming up, so I'm really excited about the ones you're going to be listening to very shortly. Cody, did you want to add anything?
I would add at this point that in the future, others will be watching a recording of this webinar. And if you, in the future, have questions based on this webinar, again, feel free to reach out to me, feel free to reach out to Rosemary. We'll get you answers to those questions.
So, and then Jarius, why don't you come over and introduce yourself? You should meet Jarius. He just joined the team. He's sitting right across from me.
Hello.
Hey, Jarius, good to see you.
All right, cool. All right, guys. Thank you very much for your time today. And as I mentioned before, don't hesitate to reach out and please share the word and be cheerleaders for the Center for Advancing Innovation. And appreciate the kind remarks that you made today.